thing that I remember you telling me is this game is about two words: conviction and origination. Right? See, I still remember. There you go. So let's talk about conviction first. Because the conviction basically is their conviction, not his only, his team or the investment committee to invest in a team. But let's talk about the three T's that they always say: na team, TAM, traction. Right? Let's talk about team first, Franco. Why is it so important? And what should be a composition of a startup team, not individual, team, to be good enough to build conviction? Walk me through why that's so important, and probably give examples of startups that you invested on that why that team is such a good bet to take on. Then Pao, I'll throw
Sure.
the same question
Sure.
to you.
Sounds good.
So, well, let me start with this. I'll give you a very clear answer. I just don't know if I want to name startups because then that means
Okay. Sorry. Para walang
the
magselos.
other 43
Okay.
will get mad at me.
PNA na lang. Okay, just kidding. Okay.
But let's start with this, right? Like, the Philippines is an emerging market, and emerging markets are very different from developed markets, obviously, right? Developed markets, you're entering, and you have pretty much a smooth path to success. If you think about it that way, right? You just need to have a great idea. You have to have, potentially one founder that can just kill it, right? Can do multiple functions because you're living in a developed, easily, where things are easily done. You can register your business online. Yeah. You can do your marketing, from your living room. It's all these different things that single founders can do very well in developed markets and still execute the idea.
Correct.
In this country, actually not just in this country, but in the developed markets, developing markets, in emerging markets, I think that's quite difficult to do. And it's not because we believe that individual founders are incapable, but it's just the universe in which we all live in. It's difficult to do all these different things. So what we've seen in the Philippines in our portfolio, and actually in our joint portfolio, is that many of them, not all of them, but many of them are at least two founders, co-founders. They work together, right? There's usually an idea guy, usually an execution person, right? Somebody that can do the ops. And maybe they're both. I'm thinking now because I said idea guy, but it could be idea girl.
Right. Oh.
And it could be that they're both idea people, but there needs to be somebody that can also execute, right? There needs to be somebody that can speak to the team. There needs to be somebody that does all the dirty work, actually. Third to that, oftentimes, and especially now that we're deploying, slightly larger tickets out of Fund 3, we actually consider ourselves to be a little bit more early growth now. Is slightly different from venture capital, just a slightly later stage. Is a strong finance function. And I know, like, as a founder, oftentimes, and I've been a founder in the past, finance side is kind of like it's a pain in the butt. I get it. It's a pain in the butt. You have to report, you have to do all these different things. But at the end of the day, we as fund managers are deploying a relatively large chunk of capital to somebody, a founder. And we would hope that team, that founder, or those co-founders are managing it well, like understanding where every single dollar is going. Right? I think those three functions, co-founders working together, one being an operator, a finance person there to really watch the capital being deployed very carefully and reporting it well to the fund managers, I think are quite important to us at Foxmont.
Got it. All right, Pao?
I mean, everything Franco said, certainly. The way I think about it, and I'm more maybe taking a step back, what I like to always say, and basic maxim is, a startup is nothing but a collection of talent, right?
Yeah.
Your first job as a founder is not to convince us to give you capital. Your first job as a founder is to convince other people to join you on the journey. And whether that be co-founders, whether that be first employees, believers, whether it's interns who you bring along the journey, that's your first job, right? There's no, and of course with AI potentially that's different in the future, somehow in terms of what one founder can do. But to this point, and all the businesses that have scaled in the Philippines, have really been collections of teams, right? So everything Franco mentioned around a complementarity of skill set is important, and having the right capabilities to be able to get from your idea to a first set of customers paying you money for the product that you've built, and to be able to scale each stage of the journey beyond that, right? In terms of how founders should think about engaging with us, because I think this is quite important, is a joke I often say during these conferences we have is that they say if you ask for funding, you're going to get advice. If you ask for advice, you might end up with funding. So I do think that's a really...
Everybody's popping advice.
I mean, honestly, it's the best way to talk to us, I would say. Because founders have the impression that, and because of all these pitch competitions and stuff, that it has to be this performative kind of one-shot deal, I got to nail this pitch and say exactly the right words. And
Shark Tank.
Exactly. It's Shark Tank. It's pitch competitions. That's not how it works, right?
Yep.
What I often always say to and advise founders is that VCs invest in lines, not dots. Doesn't go like that. That there's a Shark Tank type pitch, and then Franco and I are like, yes, let's go. These are the terms. It's really not like that. Even within our processes, and even if we really like, as an investment committee, a company that we see, there are still weeks of due diligence that we do before the money is sent, right?
Yes.
We verify what you tell us. We interview customers of yours, if it's an operating business already, to get feedback from them on what they think about your service. If it's an idea stage company, we talk to experts and industry experts around the viability of your idea. And more importantly, we talk to you, right? Like what I always say is that the best reason to engage VCs is that even if we don't end up investing, which unfortunately we say no to 99% of companies and founders
power law again
come into our orbit, we hope that in engaging with us, in asking us for advice, in sharing your ideas with us, that you'd get something useful and helpful to your business. Which leads me to the number one trait I think that's most important. And I didn't have this philosophy before, but just from the 5 years that we've been doing this, it's coachability. It's the ability to take feedback, whether from our interaction engaging with you as a founder in our investment process, or from other investors or other shows like this, and to be able to incorporate it into what you do to improve your business and go have a positive change from one step to the next.
Right.
The pitfalls I've seen, founders are too arrogant, right? They think
hubris,
they're not willing to listen, too stubborn to think that and to think that ideas we might have, and of course we're not often of the industry you're pitching, right? So the hubris to not think that well-meaning investors are trying to really help you think through it better, and feedback of why we didn't invest might be helpful, is one pitfall, right? The best founders are humble enough to appreciate feedback and realize that building a startup is such a challenging journey. It's the reason why we love to invest together, is that the more people around the table, the better, right? This is this is really so hard to begin with, that to be able to have a lot of your investors back you in the journey is really important, right?
They risked everything, failed spectacularly, and came back stronger. Founders Only, the show where successful entrepreneurs reveal what it really takes. Where risk meets reward. Get ahead now. Subscribe to Founders Only on YouTube and Spotify for breakthrough conversations, expert advice, and the insights your competition doesn't have.